loss of muscle mass is all about. Our guest for today on Muscular Dystrophy Foundation is Gerda. Gerda Brown is the General Manager here based in Johannesburg, and Dr. Marc. Thank you guys for joining us, and we hope that this show will be a fruitful one, because I know at the end of the day it's to create that awareness, the understanding, and for more and more people to come out and be diagnosed. So if we could start with Dr. Shoyab.
I think we need to get to the crux of what we're discussing, Marc. So we're talking about a condition which is genetic, which you inherit from one of your parents or both of your parents, depending on how the genetic pattern is. But essentially, it leads to certain specific or classical clinical features. Can you describe how would you describe this condition and what its classical clinical features are, the common forms of it, let's put it that way?
So, I think if you look at your inherited myopathies as a whole, what you're dealing with are genetic abnormalities. And even though you mentioned inherited from your mum or your dad, I think one also needs to remember that a large portion of them may well be spontaneous mutations. So important.
So they start for the first time in that individual.
It's not mum's fault, it's not dad's fault. Something happened, so it's in your genes, and that went through. And those genes are important to around muscle function. And so if those genes aren't missing, your muscles aren't going to function optimally, and there could be breakdown. So these children are generally born normally, and it depends on which type of form you have, but the rate of progression is going to vary. And you're going to see a child who may have developed normally in the first few years of life, who suddenly starts getting a little bit weaker, or falling more often than normal, struggling to do tasks they manage to do more readily, and that should draw someone's attention that something's looking wrong.
Do parents often know this is coming, or do they get caught unawares for the most part in your experience?
In my experience, it's unaware. We do have a few siblings.
Expected it.
So, I mean, as I said, I work at Barra at the state hospital there, and the majority of our children are spontaneous mutations, so a large portion of them certainly have no family history of this condition, and they wouldn't be expecting it. And they will wait for a long time, and often will only present 9, 10, where the child's suddenly struggling to climb in or out of a taxi for the first time, because that was what they noticed. The rest, they were a little bit slower compared to the other children, but not enough to make you concerned enough to seek healthcare. And I'm hoping that by making people aware of this, people will pick up these subtle signs and come through to seeking help earlier.
So looking at, the offset, you say that, the child is born with it, and you've mentioned the big sort of distinction with it being present in boys. So first diagnosis, what is happening? What do we need to see? What is mum discovering?
What you're talking about is, I mean, if you look at your muscular dystrophies, certainly the most common muscular dystrophy, and certainly if you mention it to people in the medical fraternity or in public, they're going to think of Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is an autosomal recessive, an X-linked autosomal recessive condition. So boys are generally going to display the phenotypes, and its effects in the European studies, we're not really sure in South Africa, but it's about 2 per 10,000 children.
And would most of these be spontaneous mutations, or would they be inherited from
they seem to find a larger inherited side from a family history. Whereas even on my Duchenne's studies, when I've looked at them, out of the genetic mutations we found, it's if one sibling has it, there's a higher chance of another sibling having it. But the carrier testing for the mother isn't always conclusive for the same test.
But, so I mean, just to break it down a bit for our viewers, when you say it's an X-linked condition, every person has, so the X and Y chromosomes are sex chromosomes, which we call them. So, for example, a male will have 1 X and 1 Y, and a female will have 2 X chromosomes. So, if a male only gets 1 X chromosome, if that X chromosome is affected, they're likely to be affected. 100%. Whereas a female has got 2 X chromosomes, they are usually XX. They get one from their mum and one from their dad. And if one is abnormal, the other one may be normal, so they may not be affected, or they may not be as badly affected.
Correct.
So that's what we call X-linked recessive. And that's why boys are much more commonly affected.
And why a boy
with this particular type of muscular.
And why boys can only pass it to their daughters.
Yes.
And could never pass it on to their sons.
Because they give the X.
They give the X to their daughter, which is affected.
If they give the Y, it becomes a son.
Yeah. And so that's why the son's going to be fine.
Okay, going through a science lesson here,
Doc. A little bit.
But it's just to tease it up because, so I think we have got a slide maybe which shows the genetic pattern of inheritance. But it's important because if you then look back, you would find it on the mother's side of the 100%. Family, maybe in her brothers may be affected.
So if you'd ask about mothers, there's the slide over there if you want to take them through. So if you look, the mother's affected, the father's not. Out of their children, the one daughter has the condition, is mildly affected.
As a carrier.
The other son is fine, and the other son is affected. So 50% chance of your son getting it, whereas only a 50% chance of your daughter getting a carrier, where you go through. But back to what you're saying, I mean, so 1 in 10,000, or European studies saying 2 in 10,000 children will have Duchenne's. We're not seeing those figures.
Sure.
Barra, as I mentioned, has about 5,000 deliveries per year, which we probably are getting through to our clinic, but there's a dearth of specialists dealing with this condition. And there are a lot of children out there who aren't coming to the fore.
So, I mean, 1 in 5,000 is quite a big number because there may be that if 1 in 5,000 births or deliveries is carrying the gene or affected, there may be tens of thousands of children who are undiagnosed.
100%.
Okay, and hence the point of the show.
Yeah.
So awareness. What are the things that mom and dad are picking up, and clinic sister is maybe helping mom to realize that, you know, the flags are going up?
So, I mean, with Duchenne's or any muscle problem, your muscles, as I always try and teach, medical students are your proximal, your big groups, okay? So they're going to struggle. If you talk about it in adult medicine, they'll tell you the acronym of hair, chairs, and stairs. So they will struggle to brush their hair because they're struggling to lift up their arms, they're struggling to climb stairs, and they're struggling to climb up out of a chair. Yes. In a child, you're not necessarily going to find that. They just might be a little bit clumsier. The classical description, it's a medical term of a Gouwah sign, so the child is unable to stand directly from sitting cross-legged on the floor. Kids have a lot more energy than us, so they will jump up and be ready to go. These children will climb up their bodies to reach a standing position.
Like use their body as a step.
As a step. And as I said, they'll notice suddenly that the child was doing fine, and I think that's important because a lot of these ultrastructures of the muscle are there as protective mechanisms. So these muscles have ongoing damage and breakdown, and that's why the child gets weaker and weaker as time progresses. Yes. So he probably walked correctly. It was when they suddenly started playing Little League soccer or something, they noticed he was a little bit clumsier when he was running compared to his siblings, or his friends. Yeah. And that's why, in hindsight, as I said, is 20/20 vision. If you showed me a family video of him at 3, I might be able to say, but you see, when he was doing that, it was there.
You can look back,
So that's the one. As I said, it's going to be your big muscle groups and your legs, your proximal groups, your arms and your shoulders. So they might look a bit wasted as well. So if your muscles are being disused, their muscle bulk is also going to look less. So it's going to look a little bit thinner at the top rather than at the bottom than you compared to other children. And as a marker specifically for Duchenne's, if that's the one big thing that we're looking at, is they can get calf pseudohypertrophy. So their calves are getting deposited with fibers, with fatty tissue. So it's not muscles. So they look like they've got these good rugby player calves and then these thin little top legs. So everyone thinks, oh, but look how strong, and he's got like these great calves.
Like a champagne bottle type thing.
So that's another thing that they would get. So they're weaker with using their big muscle groups, and they might have these prominent calves. You're going to worry that they could well have Duchenne's. But any child who's weaker proximally or floppy for a longer period could have one of the other muscular dystrophies as well.
Okay, and this is not necessarily picked up early on already?
So you can get, not in Duchenne's, generally not. The earliest I do know, some colleagues have diagnosed children about 18 months. Okay, it's very rare. Generally, though, they'll present through at about 2, 3, and they'll continue to climb. And the plateau, which is what you're wanting to look at when their gain of strength starts tapering down, is generally going to be at about 4 or 5 years of age, which is where we would want to start intervening. And that's why you're wanting to have this early diagnosis, so that we can intervene earlier and hopefully keep that trajectory, not up to normal, but at least ongoing slightly higher.
Okay. So decrease the rate of damage or deterioration.
Before we do get into detail about the disease, we'd like to also just touch on Gerda quickly as the GM of the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation here within South Africa. Just talk to us about the foundation quickly in a minute. We need to take a break.
Okay. In a minute. Okay, Muscular Dystrophy Foundation is a registered not-for-profit organisation. Okay. We've got a national office as well as 3 branches, but we work across the borders of the provinces, right across South Africa. Primarily, we provide support, emotional support to families and individuals that's been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. So that is, in a nutshell, what we do.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Gerda and Dr. Marc. We'll continue after the break with Dr. Shoyab and myself, Gouwah Solomon. Please do stay with us. We will be opening the lines, so please contact us. We have Dr. Marc, who is a specialist in paediatric, but neurology specifically. So talk to us about your questions around muscular dystrophy, and I'm sure there's going to come up some development issues here, Doctor. If there are, please do contact us. We'll take a break, back just after this with more health matters.
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحور.
Life's most persistent, urgent question is, what are you doing for others? A man's true wealth is the good he does in this world. The Muscular Dystrophy Foundation feeds 15,000 people a day with your donations to reduce the amount of children who go to bed hungry. How can you help? By sponsoring a pot of food at 2,800 rands or sponsor a parcel at 400 rands. The Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. If every man helps his neighbor, then who will need help?
Fruit 10 aloe vera juice. No preservatives, no additives. Good till the last bits. Taste it, you'll love it. Another quality product from Marhaba Trading.
Stashy Distributors, your favorite packaging, baking and storage solution store situated in the heart of Fordsburg, Johannesburg. Visit our concept store and experience our extensive range of exceptional quality products, impeccable customer service and business with integrity policy that is sure to bring you back again and again. We do deliveries. Stashy Distributors, 6 Clare Road, Fordsburg. Call us on 011 492 0033.
Meet Thandi. Thandi loves talking about the next best thing. You see, she's what you call connected. One thing Thandi never talks about is her house, because style definitely doesn't live there. Well, Thandi, now you can, because with Lifestyle Ceramics, you can surround yourself with brands like Roberto Cavalli and Versace. At Lifestyle Ceramics, we'll design your bathroom for you. Just send us the measurements. For more, visit lifestyleceramics.co.za. Lifestyle Ceramics, premium tiles and bathroom wear.
Bring your whole family and make your life so much easier with 1UP Cash and Carry, where you get more for less and excellent customer service at its best. Remember, wholesale prices straight to the public. 1UP Cash and Carry, where you get more for less.
More for less. It's easier with 1UP Cash and Carry.
Jamiatul Qurra is one of the leading Quranic institutions in South Africa over the last 50 years. Based in Cape Town, Jamiatul Qurra has consistently produced Hufadh and Hafidhat of the highest caliber. Let us not fail the Quran. Support JEQ to continue to produce boys and girls who have memorized the Book of Allah by sponsoring Hufadh and Hafidhat for 1,500 Rand per month or 18,000 Rand per annum. This grand legacy of Hufadh and Hafidhat must continue and will continue with your support, inshallah.
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحور.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Very good evening and welcome back. This is Health Matters. I'm Gouwah Solomon, and with me today, Dr. Shoyab, and we're discussing muscular dystrophy. So, Doctor, specialist here, we want to create this awareness, so we're of course inviting our listeners to call in with their questions. We have Dr. Marc, consultant Paediatric Neurologist at the Chris Hani Hospital and lecturer at the University of Witwatersrand, as well as the General Manager at the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. We just did a quick recap of your foundation and the sort of services that you offer. And I know with a genetic disease like this, Dr. Shoyab, you definitely need support.
I think the key is to know who to contact. If either you are told you may have a diagnosis or you're concerned that you may have a diagnosis. Gerda, do you want to give us some idea of how do most of your patients or your support group, how do they function in terms of giving support? How do they contact you?
Okay, as soon as they have a diagnosis, mostly they get referred by the doctors that they see, or they've just been told there is a Muscular Dystrophy Foundation, or they Google, because it's a fairly rare disease. So everyone runs the internet, Googles, and then they come across our number and phone. What we would advise them to do is to register as a member of the foundation, and we've got a social work team that we can then get involved with the family and just help them to get past the initial shock of the diagnosis and just get them into contact with our support groups or just other people that's going through the same thing, which is very helpful.
And do you have information on your website in terms of what type of things to look out for? What are some of the symptoms?
Yes, we have some fact sheets on our website. So if they have a look at it, they can see some symptoms maybe, if they haven't been to a doctor, and if that worries them a bit, I would say that if they phone us, we can refer them to someone in their area, or they can go to their local doctor. They can then also refer them to a neurologist.
And Marc, who do they start off with? A GP, a pediatrician?
I mean, it should be. I mean, it should be your GP. Hopefully, that's where we should be going. Depends, obviously, where you live. But otherwise, your pediatrician, and I think your pediatrician should be able to pick up this condition. Or pick up the warning signs. And from there, would be able to refer you to a pediatric neurologist. Yes, the waiting lists are long, but there are not many of us around, and you should get in to see a neurologist. And
in the public sector, are there...
So the public sector, there's myself and Prof. Rodda at Barra. There's Professor Scher at Charlotte Makeke, and we actually do a combined...
And around the country, are there other
facilities? Steve Biko has pediatric neurologists. Red Cross has a very big neuromuscular centre as well. That actually takes over Tygerberg's management as well, and they go there, and then also at Albert Atuli. So it's only, unfortunately, your big academic centres where you're going to find pediatric neurologists. And despite that, though, I think we're available to assist with care. And we could go on to treatment, but if people are in doubt or if they are concerned, the association is there. And I think that's important to know, that they are in touch with us. I've certainly had over the last few years...
It's a small community of people involved and affected.
And if you're worried enough, the association will contact myself and an appointment can be made. So it certainly doesn't need to be... You can't self-refer yourself to a tertiary academic hospital, but through the association's links or through a pediatrician, they can contact us, we can make an arrangement, and you will be seen and the necessary testing done.
And the diagnostic process, what is it?
So the diagnostic process is genetic. I mean, we mentioned that this is it's a genetic problem. So we are limited, unfortunately, in South Africa. We do have a good genetic test for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. For your other subtypes, your other more common ones, limb-girdle muscular dystrophies, which is less common, 4 times less common, but still something we think about. Overseas, it's easier. It's a genetic panel. We don't have access to that. So it's baseline tests, though, which we can do. It's looking at the muscle themselves.
EMGs,
if there's damage, a simple thing as a creatine kinase. Is there ongoing muscle damage? And if we can pick that up, you already know you need to be seeing someone with a specialist interest in that field and can take it forward.
And how busy are your clinics? Are they as busy as what you should hope it can be?
We have to wait the whole day.
Because now we're talking about government sector and being diagnosed and having the feet that you need to
And in the private sector, are there facilities
So
available?
the private sectors, there are more pediatric neurologists in Joburg, fortunately, than anywhere else in the country. But the waiting list to get into a pediatric neurologist is a couple of months. About a 2-3 month waiting list to get in to see one of them. But it's not a life-threatening condition. You can wait to see them. And with regards to our clinics, we've got about a 4-month waiting list. I've actually moved our Duchenne patient follow-up dates at Barrow to a day that we have the cardiologists on the same time. So I've actually set up a date so that the association also sends a social worker through. So I've moved them all to once a month. So I see on average 6 or 8 patients once a month on a Tuesday. It's a long wait to get through the queue. To see us isn't long.
Well, it's not a simple procedure of saying hello and making a diagnosis. It's a time-intensive procedure. It goes through the family history, genetic testing, and then obviously the individual examination of what that child needs and what they're able to do. And some parents may be thinking, but is it worth it? And there's this defeatism that comes across with some genetic conditions. Certainly when I was in medical school at that time, maybe a few decades ago, muscular dystrophy was a condition where you got muscular dystrophy, we're going to make a diagnosis, but what are you going to do about it? There was but what do you do? There's been quite a lot of change and progress.
There certainly has. So, I mean, yes, but despite all the denialism or defeatism with any condition, in any chronic pediatric condition, just having an answer makes a lot of peace for the parents. That they know what it is and they have an idea of where they're going to go forward with that. And then treatment has changed. So we know now that the early treatment in children with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy with steroids, basic prednisone, it's not a very expensive drug, halts the progression. So that hopefully these children will stay ambulant for longer.
Because there's an inflammatory component related to the change in the cells.
It works on a lot, so it's partly calcium, partly laminin, increased expression. So there's a bit more things, but yes, and stopping that inflammation. So we're not sure of exactly how it works, but we know it works.
It works,
and it's across all the boards, and in any country, that's definitely what you're going to do.
That's a very interesting question, Doctor. How does it affect the body? What is happening to the body? Because it looks quite painful with this person being in this awkward positions.
So, I mean, Duchenne's, to go back to that one, so I mean, if you're thinking about dystrophin is a muscle that actually links the outside of the muscle with the inside of the muscle.
The protein,
and it works like a shock absorber in your car. So every time the muscle moves, there's a bit of damage, and that shock absorber stops that muscle from getting damaged. So they're born with good functioning muscles. As those muscles move, if that shock absorber is not working, there's going to be ongoing muscle damage.
It's trauma.
Which is why you can do a nice level to see that there's ongoing damage with the basic blood test that's readily available and shouldn't take more than a day to get a result from. And then what happens is those muscles slowly get more and more damaged. And what we're trying to do is prevent that. Firstly, using steroids to try and slow it down, advising parents on exercises. So we don't want any of these children or any patients with muscular dystrophy to do weightlifting. Let's not try and damage these muscles more than we should. Okay, and then correct positioning. When you're saying sitting like that, if a child's regularly stretched, you're not going to start developing contractures or anything further. So we
so in my field, we sometimes see some of these patients after they've done weightlifting or something like that because they develop massive muscle breakdown and then it causes kidney failure. And then they come to us with kidney failure. And that the clue is actually to look for the muscle breakdown, and we've had a couple of cases like that. So I think that's something to look out for, a child who has severe muscle pain after exercise.
100%. And then it's one of your other subtypes, and that's what's important. You know, yes, we've spoken about Duchenne's, but not everything is a genetic basis. You can get storage disorders, so glycogen storage disorders, McArdle's, where they get a second wind, tired, suddenly start working again. Is it that type? Or are you dealing with a myositis and inflammation, so dermatomyositis, where they get skin changes as well, but they get sore, painful muscles. So not everything that's going to cause you to be weak is a dystrophy, but have an idea and an awareness of taking them through.
So then is it quite hard to diagnose and put down the right box and tick off the right, sort of T's? And
there are algorithms through.
So I think that's where the process comes in, as you mentioned. That's why you need to start with somebody. And there's a lot of conditions which are going to give you muscle pain and aches. And if every one of those gets referred to Marc, he's going to be swimming in patients, to be honest. So you need the GP or the pediatrician to remove some of the viral infections, some of the exercise-related pain, and some things which may be other things, And then to hone down on those where they're not sure the CPK may be raised, patient may have persistent weakness and so forth, and then refer them up to somebody who specializes in those conditions.
And they exist. I mean, so Barrow, yes, it's a bigger clinic. We have clinics on 3 days of the week, but the Gen once a month, where Prof and myself and Prof Sher go together, have a specific neuromuscular clinic for that exact reason, that the three of us sit together, and if there's a difficult patient, we'll be able to think, well, does it fit this box, does it fit that box, or where are we dealing with it? We don't have the luxury of just turning along and saying, let's send off genetic testing, it's one of these 40. We need to look a little bit more carefully at the clinical nuances and hopefully come up with an answer.
Okay, don't forget, please come in with your calls and questions with regarding to muscular dystrophy. The awareness is important. Spread the word. If it's anything that you see in your family, in your community, diagnose it. And like doctor has said, GP, clinic sister, you know, take the step forward, and first sort of early detection is most important. So the number to call 011 086 7777, 011 086 7777. We have head of the organization in studio with us and a consultant pediatric neurologist at Chris Hani Hospital, Dr. Marc, in studio to advise us. So the sort of role socially, and just to give us a little bit of a history you have earlier on, how long sort of stats have the organization been around for, and are you getting as much members as what you think you should be getting?
Okay, the organization has been around for many, many years. We were established in 1974, so it's been a good couple of years. Our membership is not even, of affected members, is not even on 1,000. And I'm convinced there must be many, many, many more people. So I would really strongly advise people to, if they have muscular dystrophy, if they have been diagnosed, to please contact the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation and become a member. You know, if there is maybe a cure found, one of these days, we are all hoping. If you are registered with us, at least we can give you word that, listen, there's something on the way. So it's there for information, for support. I would really advise them to become a member.
Absolutely. 011, don't forget, 011 086 7777. Dr. Shoyab, just hold that thought. We need to take a break. We'll come back with Dr. Shoyab's question just after this and Health Matters.
تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحو.
Imagine the next level in faucet design, coordinated throughout your bathroom. Imagine the redesign of water itself.
Trend, Tap and Tile or Mondi. Your home, our passion.
The Syrian Palace Restaurant and Cafe bring the Syrian taste to your palate with a wide variety of mouth-watering Mediterranean dishes that is sure to leave you craving for more. Find something for everybody in our restaurant and cafe and be impressed by the food and our service and friendly staff as well. Visit us today at 28 Mint Road, Fordsburg. Contact 011 025 8167. The Syrian Palace, the pride of Oriental taste, ready to meet all parties and occasions.
Spa Serene and Nadia's Thai Massage offers 5-star treatments with the international products used with all our specialized treatments. Be it our Thai massages, foot massages, manicures, pedicures, Regime A facials, cupping, ear candling or lash lifting. We have on-site security 24 hours. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram or call us on 011 830 1022 or 011 0386 813.
Help Heal Syria with the Africa Muslims Agency's mobile clinics. Many of our Syrian brothers and sisters are displaced and in urgent need of medical assistance. The Africa Muslims Agency's mobile clinics provide free medication, professional maternity and pediatric care. Give our Syrian brothers and sisters hope by donating any amount now. Contact AMA on 011 834 8685. Africa Muslims Agency. continuing to empower humanity with dignity, inspire the spirit of giving.
صحبي هيا أقبلوا جاء رواه يملأ الأكوان نورا وضياء والتحايا لبنات رابع أنتم اليوم نجوما في السماء أنتم اليوم نجوما في السماء وسعيتم للفلاح جاهدين وتعاونتم بحب وإخاء ربي بلغهم ثواب الصابرين كي يذوقوا فرحة بعد عنا كي يذوقوا فرحة بعد عنا كم تسابقتم مع طير الصباح وتناديتم بحيا للفلاح للمصلى كنتم مثل الجناح كطيور عانقت نجم الفضاء كطيور عانقت نجم الفضاء في المصلى نحن للخير لواء قد تعاوننا على البر سواء فبنيناه بطوب من عطاء وفرشناه بحب وإخاء وفرشناه بحب وإخاء بقلوب قد بنت خير الفريق لن ترى بأسا ولا هما وضيق هكذا في الله حبا يرتوي منه قلبا قد قضى العمر شقا منه قلبا قد قضى العمر شقا نحن لم نرضى طريق المفسدين وسعينا لنكون
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحو
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. This is Health Matters on ITV. And remember, if you missed any of the shows, you can YouTube it, ITV Health Matters, and you can catch up on any of the shows that was missed. I'm Gouwah Solomon, with me Dr. Shoyab, and we're sharing the platform on this very informative journey of muscular dystrophy. We have Head of Organization, Muscular Dystrophy Foundation of SA in studio, and Dr. Marc, Consultant Paediatric Neurologist out at Chris Hani Hospital. So remember to call in 011 086 7777. We're taking your calls on any questions with regards to muscular dystrophy. And just before the break, I rudely interrupted Dr. Shoyab, so you may go ahead.
I'm used to being rudely interrupted, so that's fine. So, I mean, what I really wanted to ask Gerda is, obviously, I don't think maybe our viewers are aware, maybe we haven't mentioned it, but Gerda is herself a sufferer of a form of muscular dystrophy. And I just wondered if she could take us through her own journey of how they came to the diagnosis, what made her aware that she may have muscular dystrophy, and how it's affected her life.
Okay. I've got facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy. Onset is normally a little bit later on in life, you know, from your 20s onwards. I was diagnosed when I was 16, purely because my mom had it.
So when you grew up, you had no inkling of anything? There was no history in your family?
No, yeah, there was a history in my family with my mother that had FSH. I think I've always walked slightly different than other people. But primary school, up to about 13, not much of a problem. I did high jump, played netball, sport. It wasn't a problem until about when I was 15 or so. Yeah, then it was really, then you could see something is happening. And because my mom was diagnosed, it was easy for the doctor to say, you know, I think this could be it. Let's send you to a neurologist.
Gerda, before you continue, we do have some callers and we've been waiting for our calls to come in. ITV, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Health Matters.
They're listening on the TV.
I think if you are calling in, remember to turn down your televisions, as we're not going to get great feedback or hear you clearly. So we have a caller online.
Hello, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. Don't listen to the TV, please listen to us.
Okay.
How can we help you?
Yes, like the doctors, the question is, are there any chances of recovery from patients suffering from
muscular dystrophy?
Yes. And then secondly, the question is, do they normally go through depression?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, brother, before you hang up, are you suffering, or is someone in your family suffering from muscular dystrophy?
I'm just a bit weird.
Okay.
To get information here.
Okay, excellent.
Great
Thank you.
stuff.
Can you listen on this on the TV? Thank you.
Thanks.
Jazakallah. Okay.
Well, firstly, regarding prognosis, unfortunately, there is no cure.
Right.
It does highlight the fact, though, of the importance of genetic testing.
Right.
So overseas, there are new drugs in the pipeline. So the one is a specific gene. So just briefly, it looks at gene therapy. We can skip the gene that's a problem, and hopefully we can halt the progression slightly. It's not available here. It's hugely expensive.
Okay.
But it has shown to keep these children going through a little bit longer.
Okay.
So
exon skipping.
Exon skipping. So it's a pylorizine looking at a specific exon deletion, and that's why knowing the genetic makeup on a genetic panel, well, a genetic test for Duchenne's
can tell you that you may be receptive to this particular medication.
Exactly, and that's what Gerda was saying. So if you know what your genetic deletion is, the association could keep you in the loop.
But it doesn't cure it, it slows it down.
Cure it. So there's no cure with regards to that.
Just with regards to what the caller was asking, once the damage is done, so for example, if you've developed fibrosis within the muscle, damage to the muscle, how much of that is reversible? Because what I'm trying to get to is early diagnosis is better than later diagnosis.
So the longer you can keep a child or adolescent walking, the better their quality of life.
Right.
The minute we find that children going into a wheelchair, they slump. They start developing other problems. So they start developing a scoliosis, so their back starts getting crooked because they're permanently slouched in a chair. You can't slouch if you're standing. So that gets worse, which impacts their respiratory components. So their lungs get compressed. They get pneumonias, which is often what leads to their demise eventually. With
so you can't reverse the damage that's already done.
All we ever trying to do is to slow it down. And then he commented on depression, and yes, it's a major, major effect. And I think we forget in today's times of social media and peer pressure, the effect that our older children are getting.
Yes.
So a 17-year-old who's been on steroids his whole life, to try and keep him walking is going to be shorter than all his friends. He's not maybe going to have gone into puberty. And now on top of the fact that he's a little bit weaker, shorter, he's being teased on all of those sides. And maybe he's going to say, you know what, at least I might have had a deep voice, grown my beard, but I'm going to be in a wheelchair. Well, we don't think so, but it's difficult for them.
The other thing is he can see what's coming.
It's
the condition is inexorably
and
progressive.
That's what's important about disclosing to these children, so that they're aware of it and maximizing their outcome and their life and getting the support from the foundation once again. So,
but as you mentioned, there are different types of muscular dystrophy.
And so, Gerda, so maybe you can comment on the depression aspect.
I think it is a shock for anyone to get diagnosed with any disease. So I think it's perfectly normal to have depression initially. And even once you get used to the idea and you're actually quite fine with where you are in life, you know you've got muscular dystrophy, you know where it's going, you're actually quite good to have off days. It's just a normal thing. But it's important to not get stuck in those bad days, to get out of those bad days.
All right, we've got another caller, Dr. Shoyab. Remember, we are taking your calls. Please call in. The topic of discussion is muscular dystrophy. We have a specialist consultant, pediatric neurologist in studio and head of the organization with us. Oh, sorry, the caller just dropped. But remember, we are taking your calls. So do call in with information.
To talk to us, not to the TV.
And also turn your volume down. Turn that volume down. You can watch the television, but turn the volume down. It does affect us here in the studio. Your journey, we were talking, and I had to quickly take the call.
Oh, okay, yes. So I was diagnosed at 16. In those days, there wasn't, I think, many doctors that knew too much about muscular dystrophy.
So how was your mum diagnosed? That would be interesting. What did she have? Her mum have it, or somebody in her family?
We don't know. Further than that, we don't know, unfortunately. She had a muscle biopsy, so that was... And clinically, obviously, she was diagnosed, and then she had the biopsy, and it was confirmed. So it's only the two of us that we know about. Okay, no one knew too much about muscular dystrophy. There wasn't too much I think, said about it. I had a normal upbringing, because also the type that I have is progression is slow.
Right.
So there wasn't too much to worry about. Yeah, that's basically...
And how, at the moment, are there any ways in which it affects your life?
Yes, mobility is a bit of an issue.
You can't run up the stairs?
Yes, stairs is really, I try and avoid them. I'm allergic to them, so I really try not to do stairs. Okay. Also, what happens, we get foot drop. It's when the muscle is too weak to lift your foot. Right. So we fall over.
You trip over because you forget to lift the foot.
You just hit the point of your toe and you fall over. And uphill is a bit of a problem, you know. So mobility becomes a problem, but it shouldn't stop your life. That is actually where you should get at. There's so many useful things that you can use, assistive devices.
Yes.
And surround yourself with positive people that support you, that help you, and you can have a perfectly normal life. You do things differently, but you can do things.
Yeah.
Maybe let's get back to Marc. I mean, so Gerda mentioned assistive devices, and obviously that's going to be, so you mentioned some of the, what we would call disease modifying, or things to slow down the actual physiology or the pathology of the condition. But we mentioned that it does progress regardless. You can slow it down, but you can't stop it. So people may obviously need assistive devices, occupational therapy, physiotherapy to assist them to live. Because you need to live in spite of your disability. What type of things you do, and how does the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation help you with that?
Specifically there, so starting with smaller things. So physiotherapy, occupational therapy. In Duchenne's or any of the muscular dystrophies, one of the debilitating things are developing contractures. So contractures where a joint is held in one specific position, so you no longer can fully straighten your arm.
Because you don't move it enough.
And so just regular exercising, regular stretching of that arm is going to help you. And foot plates specifically to keep your knees in that straight, to keep your toes up.
Yes, yes.
All of those will help. So physio, occupational therapy, finding through the association people with an interest in muscular dystrophy.
Yes.
Again, not just any physio, someone who's going to have an interest in this and knows what expectations to go for or goals.
And obviously different types of muscular dystrophy
are going to need different things.
Different types of muscles. So for example, if foot drop is your problem, you may need some prosthesis to keep your legs up so that you can have a normal footfall, you know, and a normal gait. Whereas if getting out of a chair is a problem, you may need other things to assist you. A chair which can lift you up and so forth, or a chair which has a higher seat. Getting on and off the toilet can be a big issue.
And transference for the parents.
Yes.
I mean, who's helping these adolescent children now when they're 18, 20? They're not as small as they were, to and from bed to the toilet. So those assistive devices, again, could they be helped? And I mentioned the association and the help they've given a lot of our state patients in electric wheelchairs. And electric wheelchairs are very expensive.
But it can be a life-changing piece of equipment.
It's giving someone freedom.
Do you guys raise funds for that, Gerda? If people want to contribute? Or?
Yes, we do. We're always busy with fundraising efforts because we would like to help as many people as possible that needs a wheelchair or a bed or a chair raiser or whatever the case might be. But it is incredibly expensive.
But obviously it's incredibly life assisting for these people.
Yes, it makes a huge difference. We have a member now that's got a converted vehicle. He hasn't driven in, and unfortunately I can't take the credit, or the foundation can't take the credit. We had nothing to do with it, but he hasn't driven for how many years. His mom used to drive him around wherever they needed to go. And suddenly he got this car where it opens at the back, he rides in with his wheelchair, right up to the steering wheel. He drives himself. So it's incredible, the independence and the freedom that he gets from it.
But these things are expensive.
It's expensive.
And we discover more how better quality of life this genetic disease can give to people. But please do stay tuned. We continue this conversation of muscular dystrophy in Health Matters just after this. Stay with us.
تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحو.
Welcome to Star Meets in Durban. Here you will find out that service is not a thing of the past. You will find a great store featuring unique and specialized items from bakery to frozen foods, canned goods, sauces and marinades. Our meat selection features the finest chops, steaks, mince and chicken pre-packed and cut to order, with a vast variety of marinated meats for that perfect braai. Star Meats, committed to quality and freshness for 60 years. Nasima Khan Properties, established in 2007, offers excellent sales in the Sandton area to clients looking for an investment as well as a new home. So whether you're selling, buying or renting, look no further than Nasima Khan Properties. We find you a tenant and manage your investment. Contact Nasima at the Michelangelo or visit www.nasimaproperty.co.za. Nasima Khan Properties, where we make business extraordinary. If you think you have what it takes to be an estate agent, contact Shazia on 084 635 7684.
J. Junaid Jamshed proudly presents a wide variety of trendy clothing for men, women and kids with exquisite fragrances. Visit our outlet and gateway theatre of shopping in Durban and get all you want for the entire family.
فكانت البئر عميقة, and the well was deep. Why are we saying كانت and not كان? Well is feminine, so it should be كانت, but because بئر is feminine.
The purpose of this course and all our other courses that have to do with the Arabic language is we want others to taste the flavor in the Quran Kareem.
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحو.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good evening to you. Welcome back. Our last few minutes of the show in Health Matters as we discuss muscular dystrophy. With me is Dr. Shoyab, and we're really trying to create that awareness, that aspect of knowing that this disease is out there, and any teeny tiny issue that you have it checked out and ask questions. Ask as much questions. No question is too stupid to ask, doctor. Often you sit there and you think, I'm not going to ask this question because this doctor's telling me everything. That's probably it. Never too silly question to ask. Hey? So remember, we are taking your calls. Call us with this in mind, muscular dystrophy. We have a specialist pediatric neurologist in studio with us, Dr. Marc, and head of the organization in studio with us, an NGO that definitely helps them socially go through, this journey and understands. And as doctor has mentioned, we were chatting in the break, that often this disease is not diagnosed. And they're sitting with, not having an early detection for better quality of life. So let's unpack that quickly and how, disadvantaged they are when that doesn't happen.
Well, it is that. It's the exact one. And I mean, I know we're going back to Duchenne's, and I know there are lots more. It's what I see a lot of coming through. But it's the fact that if you've waited till your child can't stand up from a chair anymore, he's got that limited potential of us adding a drug that might have kept him going to 16. And now suddenly he's in a wheelchair at 10 rather than a wheelchair at 18 or a wheelchair at 20.
And that's really a life-limiting
massive difference for them. And going through, and with all of the others, I think it's getting that answer and putting an awareness through it. And we haven't touched on some of the associations that these children might have. So an important condition with Duchenne's and with Emery-Dreyfus and with some of the others is cardiac. So the heart is also a muscle. And if one forgets that the heart's working just as much as everything else, that ongoing damage can affect there as well. So we know we can try early on to put on some medications that will decrease the amount of work on the heart, but we do regular screening as well to see, do they need any further medication? So it's not just along the lines of seeing us and saying, well, off you go, you've got a diagnosis. We're not there to cure, but we're there to facilitate, as pediatric neurologists, the liaison between the pulmonologists. Are your lung function tests correctly? Can we assist you with the work of breathing, with cough assist devices?
I think there's this perception that if you've got a serious limiting neuromuscular disease, it's going to affect the impact you can have on the world. And I think, from the Islamic community in South Africa, many of you may remember a young guy by the name of Yusuf Talia, who was the head of the Muslim Students Association and involved with SLC at Wits University, and had an immense impact, well remembered, highly influential. His brain was still working, and the key about these individuals is they are fully aware, fully alert, their brains are still working, and sometimes you lose the opportunity for that person to impact society if we do not intervene early. And I think that's one of the things that we can do. Stephen Hawking had a form of a muscular disease, which with adequate supportive therapy meant that he was given 12 years to live when he was in his 20s, and he made it into his 70s. So, I mean, there's significant advances in the therapies which are available.
And I think touching on that quickly was the fact that cognitive impairment or your neurodevelopmental status isn't necessarily affected. It may be in some, but not all.
Yes.
So if you're going to be a bright person, I mean, you mentioned Judas, we mentioned it to your co-host when we were chatting. I knew Yusuf as well when he was studying for his second degree.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that your brain's not working. Just because you're weak, you can still be bright.
Guys, we need to wrap up. We've got to give you quickly a minute in conclusion and your message to our listeners.
If I can just link on to what he said, that is very important to me from a social work perspective, normalization. You know, cognitively, not much wrong, or if anything is wrong. So please, parents, don't keep your kids out of school. Keep it as normal as possible. Send them to school. They need to learn. They will go to university if they can. So keep them as normal as possible.
Function. Doctor?
And just to let you know, we're around. You might not think there are many of us, which there aren't, but fight to get involved. We're readily available. If you want to find a pediatric neurologist, your GP or pediatrician should be able to get you in touch with us. Or if they're struggling, the association website was up there. They've got my contact details and they can liaise directly with me.
Sure. Dr. Shoyab, your last words?
I think from an Islamic perspective, some of these conditions can really be seen as a serious disadvantage, but we know that success from an Islamic and religious perspective is not defined by your physical attributes and what you're able to achieve physically in this world, but on your goodness and your ability to impact the world in a way which is positive and contributes to the betterment of society. And certainly we have many examples of people who have serious disabilities, serious genetic abnormalities, who Allah will judge them not based on whether they were able to stand up out of a wheelchair, but whether they were able to impact on the world in a meaningful way given the limitations they had.
Shukran so much, Dr. Shoyab. It was a brilliant start and kick-off to this edition of Health Matters, and with you guys as well. We appreciate your time for coming in. Remember that the details is up on our screens. Please do contact the association, and if nobody's listening, the NGO Muscular Dystrophy of South Africa is out there to listen to you. Gerda is standing by for your call. Thank you so much for partaking, and it was a pleasure being with Dr. Shoyab. From myself, Gouwah Solomon, wassalamu alaikum, and goodbye for now.
أتذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحو.
Put the volume and bounce back in your hair with the Mirror-inspired shampoo range. Mirror. The secret is out.
Carpet City has been installing Musalla carpets in masjids, madrasas and Jamaat Khanas for over 15 years, providing a complete turnkey operation from design and colour choices to installation and after-sales service. We have an extensive range of designs and colours to match your taste. Let our professional team assist you in choosing a Musalla that suits your budget. We service clients across the country. Call us now for a free, no-obligation quote on 021 633 8222 or email us carpet@mweb.co.za. Carpet City, your professional Musalla carpet company. For all your flexible packaging, snack packaging, candy wrappers, shrink sleeves, labels, cartons and other custom packaging, contact CPP Flexibles on 072 474 1132 and at www.cppflexibles.co.za.
Caminettos is a place to eat. Caminettos is a place when you're hungry, when your tummy's feeling funny, and ain't no food for money, then the place to be is Caminettos.
For good Italian taste, when nothing goes to waste. For original wood-fired pizza and pasta. And for a fusion of international taste.
Visit Caminettos and Purple Burger at Overport, Durban City, and now Pietermaritzburg.
And for the kiddies, Planet Purple at our Overport store.
Caminettos now introducing Let's Tie.